Hey everyone, welcome back to Shop Life. Today I have the pleasure of working on this 1986 BMW E28 535i, my bad. It is a factory manual car. It has almost 300 something thousand miles. I think the odometer stopped working at like 230, but let me fix my hair right quick.
Yeah, it's always a mess, bro.
If you guys follow these cars, you guys know that these are going up in value like crazy right now. So my customer actually just bought this one from Washington. They had it shipped down here. They just took delivery of it probably about a week ago, and they just brought it here so I could take a look at everything, figure out what all it needs since it is from 1986. Most of the suspension is still fairly stock as far as the rear end goes, so they just want me to look over the whole car, figure out everything that it needs, and make a whole list, and then we'll tackle it. This is a factory manual car, but definitely doesn't feel like a manual with this shifter.
Oh my goodness.
In order to get into reverse, you have to move the whole center console over when you're switching the actual gear stick. So, I mean, that's not that bad of a fix. It's just replacing it all with all the shifter bushings and just replacing all that. Or we just put a short shifter on it and it'll make it a lot better. But that's very simple and straightforward, and that should restore the way that this car should drive. You'll be surprised how much just a shift knob and shifter change the entire feel of driving a stick car. So if you even have any type of BMW with the manual, look into a different type of shift knob. One of the best shift knobs out there for the newer style BMWs is the ZHP knob off of the E46. So even the more recent M's, they still use the ZHP knob. They might have it lit up, they might have different boots on it, but the ZHP knob is the way to go.
Anyways, weighted.
Huh?
It's weighted.
Yeah, it's a weighted knob, and it's actually shorter than most stock knobs, so it just feels really good. Let's jack it up. So right now we're just gonna look through the entire car. The main reason I jacked it up is because one of the major things with the car being this old is gonna be the suspension. And I know someone's done some work to it because it is lowered. I'm pretty sure it's just lower on lowering springs. And there's also this exhaust, which is not factory. They've got Magnaflow muffler. They've got a Magnaflow muffler. Magnaflow, I think that's a True X resonator, or it might be a secondary muffler. I'm pretty sure it's one of those resonated True X cross pipe, whatever. But anyways, it's just hanging down here. They broke off the actual rubber mount that goes right here. So they went through all the trouble of welding onto the pipe, but either they didn't attach it or it broke off. Actually, I kind of see why it broke off, or they took it off. So if you look over here, well, right here first, it's hitting this, the heat shield. And this right here is the gas tank, and it's hitting that. Then we also have the rest of this resonator is actually hitting the drive shaft, and there's actually marks on it. So they probably welded everything together, put it up, saw that it was hitting, then they just took off the mount and called it a day. Which is a pretty simple fix. I mean, all they have to do is just change the angle of this pipe. And I mean, it's been repaired quite a few times, as you can see, all these crappy welds that are already breaking and rusting through. I don't know why there's a gap in this one. But moving on, this is an 86, so it only has this cat. I don't think the Euro cars got any cats, but the US ones got this single cat. Here's the O2 sensor, that's pre-cat, there's no post-cat. So technically you could just remove this and no one would know. Now, with any BMW, as you guys know, oil leaks. Well, not any, my BMW doesn't have any oil leaks.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Or the Wagon doesn't have any leaks.
Nope.
Or the LS swap doesn't have any leaks, but I guess that's not a BMW anymore, as many people would say.
Bruh.
But anyways, yeah, so we've got the rear main seal leaking. It actually might not even be the rear main. I think it might just be the oil pan gasket and where it meets the rear main. You'll be surprised, the rear main seal really does not leak. I've actually never seen a single rear main seal that's leaked. I've replaced a bunch of them, and that's mainly preventative. Whenever you have the transmission off, you might as well do it. So we've replaced a bunch of them, but usually they're not bad. It's usually where the oil pan meets the rear main seal, or the metal holder for the rear main seal, it usually starts leaking. But anyways, this one has a leak, obviously, most likely from the oil pan. Pretty sure the valve cover is also leaking because it's kind of caked on around where the head gasket is. But usually, if the head gasket was leaking, they would have other issues. And it might also be there might also be a leak from the front timing cover.
Dang, Mr. Popular.
It's the morning. It's about 8 o'clock. Phone starts ringing now. But yeah, so as far as the front suspension goes, it seems like someone's already replaced a bunch of these control arms. It's got stainless steel brake lines as well. Obviously, it's got lowering springs, but those springs, I think they're no-name spring. Their rate is probably completely off, which is why it feels very bouncy. They've replaced all the struts and shocks, but I would probably recommend replacing all that again and putting proper lowering springs if they want to go that route. And then even the brakes, tires are all dry rotted. Power steering, it's not actually leaking. There's oil running down it, but that's from the oil pan. And then I think the AC doesn't work on here, but the compressor is not seized. The belt's fine, so it's probably some other issue we'll have to diagnose. And being that this car's from Washington, it's actually surprisingly rust-free. I mean, there's one rust bubble that I saw in the quarter, but for the most part, it's good. Engine mounts seem like they're factory, but they're surprisingly not too bad. I mean, yes, it vibrates. It's an older car. It's going to do that anyways. But since we're trying to just make a list of everything that should be replaced, we'll probably knock that out as well. So the sway bar bushings are poly bushings. They've replaced that as well. It's great. And now the rear suspension, I mean, I just took a quick look and I can already tell you, every single bushing is shot. The eccentric bolts are all shot. Subframe bushing is shot. They did put stainless steel lines here as well. Surprisingly, the axle boots and everything are fine. They probably have been either rebuilt before or replaced. The differential is not leaking, but if we're going to do all this bushing, I'm going to drop the rear end, so it's a good time. Change out that fluid, change out the actual gasket for the cover. And also trailing arm bushing. So on here, the way that this suspension is set up, so the diff hooks up to the front part of the subframe. So there's no rear mount for the subframe. The only mount that there is the diff mount right here. And obviously we have the trailing arms. They have a couple bushings on there. We'll change those out as well. The rear brakes are completely shot. The rotors are all warped as well and grooved up. And sway bar links, sway bar bushings, all the normal stuff. But yeah, I mean the best thing to do in this case is to just drop the whole rear end. Change everything out all at once. And it's a lot easier instead of just leaving it on here and just doing one at a time. And dropping this rear end is surprisingly not as difficult since it is pretty basic and most of the stuff is pretty open. But yeah, no rust. I'm actually very surprised.
Why is it on? Is my car on, bro?
No, but when I moved it, I left the ignition.
Oh my goodness.
But that means there's an air leak somewhere.
Oh.
Or probably because it's kind of colder today. Maybe, who knows?
Great.
Oh man. Air suspension, right? There's no suspension that's just perfect, is there? Besides factory, I guess. But yeah, so someone's replaced this fuel filter, but the fuel pump doesn't look like it's been replaced, which if it hasn't, I'll be pleasantly surprised. It might just be that the cover's all cruddy, but even the hoses and the hose clamps look like they haven't been messed with. All right. I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's a 300,000 mile car. I mean, it's very good condition for how many miles it has. All right, let's bring it back down. I'll see you later. So I already looked over most of the engine to see if there's anything wrong. The car is running a little rich. I'm pretty sure it's because of that air filter. It's really, really dirty. It is a reusable one, so we could probably clean it, but I'll probably go with a different style. We'll see. Besides that, all these connectors are kind of shot. There's a couple of warning lights that are intermittent as far as the coolant goes, so I'm pretty sure just because of the connectors. Yeah, I mean, besides that, for the most part, look at this. Someone's replaced this boot before. Most of these vacuum lines have been replaced probably a couple times by now. All the plug wires have been replaced. The AC system looks intact for the most part, so I'm not really sure why the AC is not working. I've done a few tests as far as checking the compressor, seeing if it actually cuts on and stuff like that. So it might be an issue that we might have to result to an actual AC shop that specializes in AC. It runs, I mean, it starts up on like the first try, even if it's been sitting for a couple days. I've had it here for like 2 or 3 days, and I didn't turn it on. I turned it on like this morning, and it just quick, like didn't hesitate. It's probably even quicker than most of the newer cars. All right, let's take it for a spin. Let's see how it sounds. Let's find neutral. Somewhere in there. So let's see. That could be reverse, but it's definitely first.
The dash works?
Yeah, all the cluster, all that works. I don't know if this one doesn't have the OBC panel. But yeah, for the most part, everything does work. But look at this, like this is crazy. So here's like the first gear gate. Right, that's at the very end. So that's first. That's second. Let's go. Even all the power seats, power windows, everything works. That's crazy. Parts are here. Parts. Yep. All new ZF transmission pan for a 2015 428i. They're very different compared to the 6 HP. So this one has the 8-speed transmission, and it's got different magnet placement, different filter placement, and it's a lot thinner. Definitely doesn't like getting into gear at a low rev. Sums. It's all that suspension. Oh, that diff mount is shot.
Oh.
That's probably the subframe mount too, not just the diff mount. Oh, needs alignment. We got some steering play.
Power windows? Wow.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure either the Guibo or something is really moving around back here, or it could just be from the diff. Yeah, these springs are ridiculously crappy. The strut mounts are shot in the front. That is so bad. And this was a daily driven car from the people that they bought it from. I see why he stopped daily driving it, or she. Well, I see why they sold it, to get a better daily driver. Yeah, I think most of this is because of those lowering springs that they put on. Transmission feels okay though.
Wow, so bouncy.
It is. I think cleaning that air filter or replacing it should help out a lot with it running too rich.
No beamer when I pull in the sun. Change on me just like Polo the Don. Don't be fronting, girl, you know I'm the one. Number 2 is not an option and they know they can't stop me. Take off, I can't take no breaks off. I've been working